Do you feel like you're barely keeping your head above water? That no matter how hard you try, meaningful progress remains out of reach? Heather gets that. She battled an eating disorder for years before seeking help. Now in recovery, Heather is here to tell you that positive change is possible even when it doesn't feel that way. Join her as she shares openly about her struggles and small triumphs. Fair warning though, Heather doesn't hold back. Her candid story may trigger some. But for those wanting honesty, hope, and healing, this is 1% Better with Heather. The information and stories shared on 1% Better are based on host Heather's personal experiences with eating disorders and mental health challenges. Heather is not a licensed doctor, therapist, dietitian, or other health professional. Her advice and opinions should not be taken as professional medical advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified health provider regarding any medical or health-related issues. 1% Better also contains descriptions of eating disorders that may be triggering for some listeners. Discretion is advised.
Hey there, my little gaffers, and welcome to 1% Better with Heather. Today I have a special guest, edWARRIORmom, as she's known on TikTok. For the next couple episodes, edWARRIORmom will share how she got pulled into this eating disorder hell. No questions off limits. She will speak about her daughter and their experience with the eating disorder recovery system, how this disease affected her family. She will also be discussing her faith in a higher power and how that helped her get through this eating disorder hell. It takes a brave person to come onto a worldwide podcast and air your dirty laundry, so to speak. I applaud her for this. Now, without any further ado, here is edWARRIORmom. Hey there, my little gaffers, and welcome to 1% Better with Heather. I have a special guest today in the studio. It's edWARRIORmom, as she's known on TikTok. Welcome, edWARRIORmom.
Hi, Heather. Thank you for having me.
And edWARRIORmom's here to shit talk with me, and we're going to talk everything social media and our honest opinions about how we think influencers, the eating recovery community is, and we say it like we mean it. So I appreciate you for that.
Absolutely.
So you spoke in a different episode about your daughter, and she has social media, but she's not down the ED recovery TikTok, shall we speak? And we hope that we love TikTok. We do. Don't shut down our accounts. But let's just be honest. It's a lot of them are full of crap. Is that why she doesn't want to go down that road?
I haven't really had a specific conversation with her about why, but she has really tried to just create a life for herself that's not so wrapped up in the identity of having an eating disorder. And, we've talked before about just the competitive nature of disorders. And I think it's really difficult to navigate recovery at different stages because people use this terminology. And, there's a lot of people who are probably working very hard at recovery, but who are also still very sick. And so it's a challenging thing to be in it without getting sucked into something more. And I feel that, and I don't even have an eating disorder. I think there's some great things about being a part of the community. And I think, I have value there and I'm learning there as well. But it also can be a hard place to be, frankly. I worry about a lot of people on a daily basis that I've never met in real life.
Yeah, and as a person in with the ed, I don't know if it's because I'm older and I can just see through BS, or I've been in the industry though too, right? Like I've done acting, I've done modeling. I know how sponsorship works. I know how contracts work. And the things that I see a lot with these eating disorder recovery accounts, I always look and when I first started or looking into eating disorder recovery, I was looking at numbers. Oh, well, obviously, if they have these numbers, they must be good at something. Then it clicked in my head. Oh, no, maybe not. Right? Because there's certain, and I will never name anybody on here, there's certain social accounts that you can clearly see they're not, in my opinion, like they're still sick. And most people tuning in are waiting for the dumpster fire.
Yeah, it's a really hard balance for me because I certainly empathize with just this place of being on a trajectory, on a journey, and wanting to get better and feeling like you are better. And sometimes the sickness makes you feel like you're better than you really are. And nobody should worry about you. You're doing great. What's not to like about where I am? But the problem is that when you put it out there for so many vulnerable, often vulnerable young people to see as the end goal, right? Like if I do that, just like her or him, then I'm recovered. And I think it is challenging because recovery is, I think, a very personal and very person specific process. And it creates this environment where everybody feels like it has to look a certain way. And sometimes that certain way is just a lie, it's just a facade.
Yeah. And that's so true because, as we talked in a previous episode, you're never going to be fully recovered, ever. Like if you ever walked into, and there's a certain alcohol program, right? You sit in that room, there's going to be a person that says, "Hi, I'm Joe Blow. I'm an alcoholic." And they could have 40, 50 years of sobriety. They're always a hair away from, you're always one drink away, is what they say, right? Same with, so what I have a problem with when people say, "Oh, I'm recovered and I'm not thinking like," I'm like, then you're a liar. To me, you are. Because you're always going to have an eating disorder. It's walking the tightrope, as I say every day.
Yeah. And what does recovered mean? I think I do challenge that language. I think we are aspiring to be not held hostage by an eating disorder, being able to live our lives with freedom and confidence and um, realizing our goals without feeling like we're being held back by something else. But the human experience in general is going to create challenge, and navigating that challenge effectively without falling into disordered patterns, that takes daily effort. And frankly, you're going to do it better one day than you are the next day. And so I just think it creates this black and white thinking that I don't think is healthy.
So you and I are around the same age, right? In around there.
Yep.
And we both have the guilty pleasure of Bravo. We bonded, right? What do you think, like as an adult, and I'm going to pick on Beverly Hills, of watching all the, well, except for like what, two of them on Ozempic, or one has now, what do you call that? Orthorexia. One already admits that they have an eating disorder and she's trying to, so I give her props. I'm not picking on her at all, right? But how are you feeling when you're watching Erica Jane totally like not look how she used to? And she never looked bad before, right? Now she looks like what they call it, lollipop girls. She's a stick with a head.
Yeah, I think it's just society in general is so open to and almost endorses, I will say, endorses this concept that smaller is better, no matter where you started, right? And it celebrates the changes that particularly women make to their bodies to try to get the approval of whomever. And I see that happening all the time. And it's so frustrating sitting in my seat. I'm sure it's frustrating sitting in your seat, where we understand that this isn't just fun and games, right? Like, this isn't just what's happening on TV or on social media. This is planting a seed in a maybe 9 or 10-year-old little girl that I will be better, I will be more loved, I will be more valued when I change myself. And that's where I really get frustrated, because our kids are struggling. Back to TikTok, I didn't know anything about this community. I totally joined TikTok on a whim. The community is very large, and some of these kids are very young, and they're struggling, and it hurts my heart. And it comes from a variety of places, right? Like, we can't just blame social media. We can't just blame society. We can't just blame families. We can't just blame, whatever. It all works together, but it's significant. It's significant if we're looking at this community of millions of kids who don't have the lives that they should have at 15, 16, 17 years old, because they're now struggling with mental health. I got a problem with that.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, because us growing up, 80s, 90s, different thing, right? Now I'm turning into my mom. You
Exactly.
right? Like my parents. But as, say, like, let's say 2000s, when the first reality show like the Osbournes came out, and then social media, and now like Instagram and TikTok, it is so abundant to everybody on the planet, right? Instant gratification. And people wanting to quit their jobs. Everybody wants to be a somebody, but it was a lot different even 10 years ago, when people are like, I want to go be an actor, and you put all your crap in a car and you drive to Hollywood and you hope it happens. Now, anybody can have a platform. Anyone can be a star doing whatever, cooking, baking, makeup, and unfortunately, having an ed.
Yep. Everybody's an expert at something, and we'll look to them to learn how to be their brand of expert. I will say that with the negative, there is a positive, in that I think many young people don't have the parental support to get past this, and to process their emotions, and to feel that they are not alone in feeling this way. There's a lot of shame that attaches itself to eating disorders. And so, there's two sides to the coin, right? There's normalizing, creating community of people who can support each other. And then the other side is creating this community that holds each other back from actually getting better. And, on any given day, I feel both of those things working pretty strongly. And so I don't know what the solution is. I mean, some days I feel like the solution is all those little girls come live with me and I'll take care, I'll take care of them. Probably not the most practical solution. But I am very aware of the problem. Very aware.
Yeah, and I'm always on follow the right people, find your village. And this is where I really love a certain program that's been around for 100 years, right? Because you can walk into that room at any given time. You could be on a day 1 or you can be on day million. There's going to be someone there who's going to help you right off the bat for free. Nothing. Zip, zilch. That's the point of this program, because you have to go with somebody who's already gotten through this hell to know that you can make it out and go through a 12-step program. That's where I look for those people who want to help and are easy, accessible. I will shout out Recovery Mom all the time. That woman saved my life. I will go to my grave saying it. She did. And just for being kind, right? And that's how it should be. I get I'm getting more and more mad about it as the days go on. But when I was looking for recovery, and you're looking at these people with all these followers, and they're like, oh, buy my program at $500 a month. And now knowing what I know, and I give it away for free. Here's the answer. There is no answer. I can't make you better. You have all the power. You want to get better? That's on you. I can sit there. I can listen to you. I can guide you. Like you said earlier in a previous episode. Yeah, we can do all that. We can support you. There is no magic answer. It's all on you, whether you want to recover or not.
That's right. That's right. And I feel like, some days I'm like, why am I on TikTok? I'm 47. I don't even know how to work it some days, but I also feel called, and I feel now I'm in the midst of all of this chaos of the recovery community. And sometimes I just feel like if I am there as a steady presence, as someone, when somebody says, I can't do this, I'll say, yes, you can. You can. You have to decide that you can. You have to have the right tools to do it, but you can do it. And be that encouragement. I'll take that all day long, right? As you said, it's free. I have the time to do it. I have the brain space to do it. And I hope that it is of some value to somebody sometime, over and above all these things that they're sold as the magic solution. You have to decide. You have to own it for yourself. And you have to have people that look you in the eye and say, you can do this. I believe in you.
Yes, I totally agree. You need your village. I feel like we're the cleanup crew.
Yeah.
Right? Like we just go through and we're like, no. And I'm way more fork-tongued than you, right? I'm just like, nah, everyone's full of bullshit. You're so nice. You're like Mary Poppins. And I'm just like the Terminator. I'm like, you guys are all full of shit, right? But sometimes, right? And that's a good yin and yang, right?
We're need good someone, cop, bad cop. Let's right? do that. Let's take it on the road.
Yeah, right. Like you need that love. You need that support, and you need to be, what's the word, held. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you need a kick in the ass, right? So, yep. But it's so hard, even watching. I don't know, like with Ozempic being so easily available, and like the diet industry is $1 billion industry for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
And I have my own thoughts on dietitians, and I have my own thoughts on therapists or whatever. I always say, if you if you're going through this eating disorder hell, you need to talk to somebody who's been through it. I can't counsel someone coming off heroin. I
Yeah.
know nothing about heroin, just so everyone knows. Absolutely nothing. How am I helpful? I can empathize, I can sympathize, but even having you adjacent to that, you've watched what your daughters went through. Like, you get it even more,
Mhm.
right? Than somebody who doesn't.
Yeah, and I think I'm very careful not to put myself into the space that communicates that I do know. I know what I've observed. I know what my daughter has told me. I know a lot, but I don't have that personal experience. And so I do sometimes have to remind myself of that, because I want to do no harm in the process. But somebody has to be doing it, right? And so I do find myself looking around and trying to step into spaces that I do think that I can be helpful in. My daughter one day, she was telling her boyfriend about my TikTok, and she casually said, "Yeah, she thinks she's a TikTok therapist." And we're just like, no, 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 no. That is not what I am trying to do. But some days maybe I feel a little bit more like that than others.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there's nothing worse than being in this eating disorder and not being heard, not being seen, feeling like, I've said it before, a glorified inmate. You don't have feelings, just do what I say and shut up. And it's awful. And I'm old and I have a hard time articulating what I'm feeling.
Right, right.
So having a teenager do it, like, that's even more confusing. And then you got to deal with your family, if they're there or if they're not there, on top of it. So yeah, then you go to social media and you just watch what I eat in a day videos, right? What are your thoughts on those? Thank you.
I literally hate them. I hate everything about them. When they come up, I just scroll right past them because they give me so much anxiety and anger that I can't even I can't even watch them. I just think they're, for most people, they're ways to demonstrate that they're sick. Not for everybody. I think there's some good intentions, but even when there are good intentions, I think they're worthless because um, what you need to eat in a day may be different than what I need to eat in a day, and it may be different from what you or I need to eat tomorrow. Um, and I think, again, we talked just about sort of the box that people can get into and feel like this is what recovery looks like. Like, if I do exactly this, then that's my path. And it's so short sighted to the ultimate goal, which is listening to yourself, building confidence in yourself around food and your own body, and eating what you need and want. That's the other thing, right? Like, we're kind of do this whole food is fuel thing. Food is a whole lot more than fuel. And if we only think about it in that little box, then we're going to stay stuck.
Yeah, I highly I highly agree with that. I don't do, like, it's very few and far between. Like, I can't say, "Oh, I don't do it." I just showed about me cleaning out my cupboard. That is my shelf, like, don't touch my stuff, right? But it's all candy.
Yeah. Well, I also think there's a very different thing of saying, this is something that I'm about to eat because I really love it. Then here's what I ate from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and it's incredibly lacking in what, somebody should probably eat in a day. I mean, I just think that there are differences. I don't think we should we should feel like we can never talk about what we're eating, what we like, what challenges that we have. I just think the typical like rinse and repeat what I eat in a day template is not great.
Yeah, and I do a lot of, because I live in Canada, right? So, and a lot of my followers are in America or England or Ireland. And man, my ketchup chip video, holy Hannah, right? I'm like, hey, I'm having ketchup chips. That blew everybody's mind. But I like to show that kind of stuff. Like if you were like, hey, I got these, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
where'd you get those? Right? Like different candies, different chocolates. That's the only time I will show
Yep.
something.
And I also think it can be helpful. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth now, but I think it can be helpful in helping people get unstuck with their kind of safe foods. Like your world gets really small with an eating disorder, and you do see somebody saying, "Oh, I got this great caramel popcorn from Trader Joe's." You're like, "Oh, well, I have a Trader Joe's. I can go get that." I do think there is some value in helping kind of expand the worldview when most of these situations are, a small worldview. So I'll give them some credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I just have a problem with, just because I've had an eating disorder and I know what the deal is, right? Same with, I've talked about it before. You don't see a lot of my body, and there's a reason for it. I don't want people to compare themselves to me. I'm 5'10". I'm an Amazon. I have 36-inch legs. You're never going to look like me, ever. And I know why these girls do a full-length thing and then eat 10 pizzas. I know why they're doing it.
Yep.
And when I was right in the beginning of eating disorder recovery, that was the biggest kick in the head. Because I was thinking, how are they eating these pizzas and they look exactly the same? Nothing has happened to them, right? And then once the brain started waking up when I was having nourishment, and I couldn't watch it anymore. I would cry because I'm changing. I've got edema. I'm swelling. I look like the girl out of freaking Willy Wonka that turns blue and you roll her out of the room. That was me. So I'm like, how are they getting away with it? This isn't cool, until I started figuring it out, right?
Yeah, it's very complex. And that's the other thing that I think most of the eating disorder community is very focused on kind of one type of eating disorder, and other people who may be struggling differently don't feel like they have a place. And I think you could even elevate that to a challenge in eating disorder treatment. I know Recovery Dad talked a little bit about his daughter's experience in the partial hospitalization program portion of her treatment, that, navigating a variety of different eating disorder typologies can be very, very difficult, or navigating them all at the same time, right? Again, it's a competitive disorder, and it can be really challenging and triggering. So that is also, a benefit of very large programs that can create more tailored groups based on, the challenges that are presenting. But in a broad community like social media, you don't have any of that. You just have everybody comparing themselves to everybody else and trying to apply what they want to from each place that they visit.
As someone who, like, you're my age, how do you feel about all this? Like, do you feel the pressure? Like when you're I'm getting anxiety now watching Beverly Hills, because I'm like, I can't watch this anymore. Like, I know it's taken me in a wrong direction. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel the pressure in society? Like, oh, maybe I should, like, depending on what TV shows. I'm not like totally throwing them down the toilet here. I love bravo, don't sue me. But like, it's hard not to, like, I can think in my logical brain, okay, I'm not rich. I'm not going to buy all those designer clothes. My feet are too big for the shoes. And I don't live in California or Beverly Hills or America. So that part's easy to deal with. But the how they spin what's going on right now, do you find yourself susceptible to that? Going, well, I could like sway yourself. Subliminal messaging is kind of what I want to get. That's how I
Yeah.
feel it is.
Yeah. I really don't feel that personally. And I am so lucky. I think when I talked about the typology for eating disorders, or specifically anorexia, I could probably fit into that typology. And so I'm very thankful that I have not been as susceptible to some of the messages that I definitely see them. But they're kind of those things that just like go into my brain and go out, except for now that we've been through this experience with our daughter, I see everything as danger to her. And I see everything as danger to my two sons. And so I can take myself out of things and still think they are very, very challenging because of our experience. And that's what's really hard about, I talked in another episode about this divide of before eating disorder and after eating disorder. Like, I realized that before eating disorder, I was just like everybody else, not seeing any of those things as problematic and contributing to the problem probably in some ways. And after eating disorder, I look around and I'm like, why do you people not think this is crazy? Like, why is this not a problem to everybody? Um, just even in the work environment, I see people who have taken medication to lose weight, and the amount of comments that people feel free to endorse what has happened with their body is alarming to me. And maybe it's because they know that that's why and how they got there. But I tend to believe, again, because of our experience, that if somebody's body changes, it's not necessarily a good thing. It may very well be, but it could be a whole host of things that I don't want to be contributing to by commenting on it. And so, I think it's just hard because we know too much. We know too much, and it's so damaging to our, well, I was going to say our young people, to anybody, frankly.
And you're so right there, because I've struggled with my weight my whole life, right? And I was normal for a very long time before this all went down. But the comments, it gets, if you have an eating disorder, then you want the more comments. You want the more comments. And I've really learned now, like you said, I don't comment on someone. If they've lost weight, I don't care if you've lost 5 million pounds. I'm going to say you have a really nice shirt on.
Yep.
Or I like your ring. Or you look happy, rested.
Glowing.
Yeah. Anything but, oh, you look so. Anytime I hear that, oh, look at how skinny you are. I get some sort of like PTSD or something, right? Like I could feel it in my chest now. It's so weird. So I really, really, really try. I like your hairdo. I like your makeup.
For sure. For sure. And, You know, one of the lessons I've learned along the way of parenting a child with an eating disorder is sometimes, you don't even have to say the words to communicate the wrong thing. And I'll never forget the day that my daughter said, anytime I come into your presence, you're not looking at me in the eyes when we're talking. You're scanning me up and down, up and down. And I didn't realize I was doing that. And it's hard not to do it, particularly when somebody's compromised or, having some challenges. But it was a reminder to me that we have to treat people like people first in every situation that has nothing to do with what they look like, what their body size is. And so many of our conversations with people are about the exterior. And you start to just see that in the world around you.
Yeah. I love that quote. Your weight is the less interesting thing about you.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it true?
Absolutely.
Isn't it true? Well, I really appreciate you being here with me and taking
Yeah.
all this time out to talk. And can you tell everybody once again your handle for TikTok and where they can find you?
Yep, I'm on TikTok. The label is edWARRIORmom, but the actual handle is wendy.with.a.k, which, if you remember, is how I tend to introduce myself when people don't understand my name. It's Wendy with a K.
Haha, there you go. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
I
Heather.
hope you come back.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's all for this episode of 1% Better. To continue the conversation, head over to our website at www.1percentbetter.ca, where you can access more stories and resources. We'd also love it if you subscribed and left us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember, friends, progress takes patience, perspective, and sometimes a little help from people who get it. So be kind to yourself and others as we work to get 1% better every day. We'll see you back here next week.